What happens when a Super Bowl contender's championship dreams suddenly depend on players who were sitting on their couches just days ago? There's something almost cinematic about what's unfolding in San Francisco right now, and it's the kind of story that either ends with confetti falling or dreams crashing down in spectacular fashion. The 49ers find themselves in the most precarious position a championship favorite can occupy, desperately hoping that lightning strikes twice with players who have already been discarded by other teams. This isn't your typical training camp storyline about competition and depth. This is about organizational survival, about a franchise that's watching its championship window potentially slam shut because of a receiver room that's gone from elite to emergency in the span of a few months. The 49ers are essentially playing Russian roulette with their season, and the bullets are loaded with names like Quintez Cephus and Equinemius St. Brown. What makes this situation so compelling isn't just the desperation, it's the genuine possibility that this chaos could actually work. Sometimes the most unlikely heroes emerge from the most desperate circumstances, and the 49ers are about to find out whether championship magic can be manufactured from spare parts and second chances. The stakes couldn't be higher. This is a franchise with a championship-caliber roster everywhere except the one position that might matter most in today's NFL. They're asking Kyle Shanahan to work miracles with players who were available to every team in the league, yet somehow nobody else wanted them badly enough to sign them. The injury avalanche that changed everything. Let's be brutally honest about how the 49ers arrived at this crossroads. Brandon Aiyuk's ACL injury in Week 7 of last season wasn't just a setback, it was the first domino in what's become a catastrophic chain reaction. The 49ers' entire offensive philosophy was built around Aiyuk's ability to stretch the field and create mismatches, and his absence has left a void that can't be easily filled. Ricky Pearsall, their first-round draft pick, who was supposed to provide both immediate impact and future star power, is sidelined with a thigh strain that's kept him off the field during crucial development time. This isn't just about missing practices. It's about missing the opportunity to build chemistry with Brock Purdy and learn the intricate details of Shanahan's system. Jacob Cowing's thigh injury adds another layer of complexity to an already desperate situation. Here's a second-year player who showed flashes of potential in limited opportunities, now joining the growing list of casualties in what's starting to resemble a medical ward more than a receiver room. The only bright spot has been Jawan Jennings showing up to training camp despite his contract holdout, but even that victory comes with caveats. Jennings is now being asked to carry a much heavier load than originally anticipated, transforming from complementary player to primary option almost overnight. This cascade of injuries hasn't just depleted the 49ers' depth, it's fundamentally altered their offensive identity. They're now scrambling to find players who can execute a system that was designed around entirely different personnel. The desperation market and its unlikely heroes, the 49ers' recent signing spree reads like a masterclass in desperation, disguised as opportunity. Equinemius St. Brown arrives with the kind of name recognition that comes from having a talented brother, but his own career has been defined by inconsistency and unfulfilled potential. He's the kind of player teams usually sign as a favor to agents, not as a solution to championship aspirations. Quintez Cephus represents an even more fascinating gamble. This is a player who has bounced around practice squads and bottom roster spots, never quite good enough to stick, but never quite bad enough to disappear entirely. Yet here he is, potentially one injury away from being asked to contribute meaningful snaps for a championship contender. What makes these signings intriguing, rather than merely desperate, is the 49ers' track record of maximizing marginal talent. This organization has consistently found ways to turn overlooked players into productive contributors, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, they see something in these players that other teams missed. The challenge becomes whether these players can not only learn the system, but execute it under the pressure that comes with championship expectations. There's a massive difference between contributing to a rebuilding team and being asked to help carry a Super Bowl contender. The Gabe Davis courtship and reality check. Gabe Davis's public campaign for a 49ers opportunity represents the most fascinating aspect of this entire situation. Here's a player who was so disappointing in Jacksonville that they ate $39 million just to get rid of him, yet he's positioning himself as the solution to San Francisco's problems. Davis's comments about Kyle Shanahan reveal both calculated positioning and genuine respect for the system. His acknowledgement that Shanahan is the guy and that the 49ers have excellent weapons shows he understands what he'd be walking into. But his suggestion that they need a deep threat like him reveals either supreme confidence or concerning self-delusion. The harsh reality is that Davis's best season came in 2022 with Buffalo, when he posted 48 receptions for 836 yards and 7 touchdowns in a system specifically designed to maximize his strengths. His subsequent failure in Jacksonville, where he managed just 239 yards in 10 games, demonstrates what happens when he's asked to be more than a complementary piece. Yet there's something admirable about Davis's willingness to acknowledge the talent around him while still believing he can contribute. His praise for Jennings and Aiyuk suggests he understands his role would be supportive rather than starring, which might be exactly the mindset needed for success in San Francisco's system. The Shanahan factor, miracle worker or limited by talent. Kyle Shanahan's reputation as an offensive mastermind will be put to its ultimate test this season. His system has historically succeeded by putting players in positions where they can maximize their strengths while minimizing their weaknesses, but this situation asks whether he can create something from virtually nothing. The complexity of Shanahan's offense actually presents both opportunity and challenge for players like Davis and Cephus. On one hand, the system creates natural separation and favorable matchups through design rather than relying purely on individual talent. On the other hand, it requires precise timing and route running that these players have struggled with throughout their careers. Shanahan's track record suggests reason for optimism. He's consistently found ways to make the most of available talent, turning journeymen into productive contributors and maximizing the potential of overlooked players. If anyone can transform this collection of spare parts into a functional unit, it's him. However, even Shanahan has limitations. His system requires a baseline level of competence that can't be coached or schemed around. The question becomes whether these new additions possess that baseline or if they're simply warm bodies filling roster spots. The championship window and urgency factor. What makes this situation so compelling is the ticking clock aspect. The 49ers have a championship-caliber roster in most areas, but their window for maximizing that talent is finite. Key players are aging, contracts are escalating, and the competitive balance of the NFC continues to shift. This isn't a situation where the 49ers can afford to be patient with player development or gradual integration. They need immediate production from players who may not be capable of providing it, creating a pressure cooker environment that will either forge diamonds or expose fundamental limitations. The urgency factor also works in the player's favor. This might be the only opportunity someone like Cephus gets to contribute to a championship contender. That kind of motivation can sometimes overcome talent deficiencies, though it can just as easily lead to pressing and mistakes. The broader organizational questions, this entire situation raises important questions about roster construction and long-term planning. How did a championship contender end up so vulnerable at such a crucial position? Were there warning signs that should have prompted more proactive moves? The 49ers' predicament suggests either poor injury luck or inadequate contingency planning. Either explanation is troubling for a franchise with championship aspirations, as both suggest vulnerabilities that could surface again in crucial moments. However, the organization's response to this crisis deserves credit. Rather than panicking or making desperate trades, they're methodically working through available options and giving players genuine opportunities to earn roles. This measured approach suggests confidence in their evaluation process and system. The potential for magic despite all the concerns and questions, there's genuine reason to believe the story could have a fairy tale ending. The NFL is filled with examples of unlikely heroes emerging in crucial moments, and the 49ers have the infrastructure to support such breakthroughs. The combination of Shanahan's system, championship-level surrounding talent, and players who have everything to prove creates the perfect environment for unexpected success. Sometimes desperation breeds innovation, and the 49ers might discover offensive wrinkles they never would have explored with a healthy, traditional receiver room. The verdict, the 49ers receiver situation, represents one of the most fascinating storylines heading into the 2025 season. It's a perfect storm of injury, opportunity, and championship pressure that will either validate their organizational philosophy or expose its limitations. Whether through scheme, luck, or the emergence of unlikely heroes, the 49ers need something approaching miraculous to turn this potential disaster into championship advantage. The players they're counting on have already been counted out by other teams, making this the ultimate test of whether championship cultures can truly transform marginal talent. The next few months will determine whether this becomes a story of championship resourcefulness or cautionary tale about the fragility of championship windows. This 49ers receiver situation has me absolutely captivated because it represents everything unpredictable about the NFL, how quickly things can change, and how championship dreams can hinge on the most unlikely players. What's your take on whether Kyle Shanahan can actually make this work, or are the 49ers setting themselves up for heartbreak? Do you think players like Gabe Davis and Quintez Cephus can really contribute to championship run, or is this just wishful thinking? Share your predictions in the comments, because I'm genuinely curious whether you see this as disaster or opportunity, and hit that like button if you're as fascinated by these championship gambles as I am.